We're gonna do a quick 15-minute sesh working on the Brickbounce OpenGL Tinker project thing. Okay, and let me show where I left off last time, which I wasn't recording, but let's just see where that is. Right now, what I'm doing, I think I mentioned it in the video, the previous video about this, but I've done actual work that hasn't been, recorded. So where I'm at right now is this will render numbers, and if I hit numbers on the keyboard, well, actually it's supposed to. Oh, I'm not on the right branch. I'm on the old commit. Okay, now let's try that. So right now I have it where it will do some numbers. Now the only numbers I have are 0, which is messed up because that's the thing I tried to do last. I need to fix that still. And then 1, 2, and 7. 7 was what I started with because I wanted a number that was not just a straight line, but so I could actually see if it worked, but still pretty simple. Like 2 was a little bit more complex. Let me see if I can actually show the kind of the mapping that I did to get these numbers kind of turned into models. Let me gotta take a picture real quick and send it to myself. Essentially, what the numbers are I figured out that doing a 3x5 grid of pixels, or I guess not pixels, but kind of, if you think about, the width of this being 3, like it's like 3 blocks, right? That, and then 5 up and down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you can make all the numbers that you need to make. And I wonder if you can do letters too, but I'm just starting with numbers because remember that the purpose of this was to do kind of like a little FPS counter. And again, it's just a small little side quest thing that I'm doing to just practice and learn. Like I had to figure out, okay, I need separate VAOs, VBOs, and EVOs for all these numbers. All these, in a way, these are models. They're kind of like 2D models. They're very simple, but they're 2D models. Let me grab those images real quick. Okay, so let me save these real quick. So you can see, wow, we went full screen. So you can see I started with the 7. Can I zoom in? You can see it's just, 4 triangles. So it's 2 rectangles and 4 triangles. And I figured out what are those vertices. And I previously did I was using the scale of, -1 to 1 over on this side. So I was doing decimals, and I realized because of through model scaling, you don't really need to use decimals. So for later ones, I did just, I just did like 3 and 5, 3 and 3 instead of 0.3, 0.5, that sort of thing. So you can just see the kind of the makeup of these numbers. So you see 2 is more complex, and I realized after the fact, I did this thing where I kind of made sure there's no triangle overlap. Realistically, you could do something where there is overlap and that'd be fine. So it's probably a little more complex. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It just works. So that's what's going on there. My 0, obviously something is wrong with that, but I'm not really worrying about that right now. What I'm worrying about right now is, so the way this works is you're making a VAO, VBO, and EVO. So you're creating the VAO, you're creating the creating the VAO, creating the VBO, you're loading the data, which this data comes from numbers HPP. So I just have the vertex data and the index data for each number in here. So this is kind of just the file that contains the model data. Sorry about that. And that just gets pulled in from here. So we load all that. So then when you want to draw down in the main loop, what we do is we say, okay, based on what the number is, and the number gets modified again by hitting the keyboard buttons, which is through process key input, which I can talk about that later. Then based on what the number is, we will bind that VAO and draw the elements, and we need individual draw elements calls because the number of triangles in each number might be different. And I wonder, I don't really know how this works. I feel like I could just do like if I change this to 24, let's say, I think that'll still work, because if you're telling it to draw 24, yeah, like that still works. If you're telling it to draw 24 and there's only whatever it was, 6, it'll just draw 6. So that might actually be a way to do it. I don't know if that's proper, so I'm just leaving it like this. But what I'm working on right now is instead of adding more numbers, because that's pretty straightforward, I just need to do the kind of the grunt work of mapping out, like you know, in those images that I was showing. Instead of doing that. Oh yeah, that was a funny screenshot from, I was searching on YouTube, trying to look up a video that was like a funny sketch video about when your friend is in your 30s and wants to change, and YouTube thought I was in a dark place for some reason based on that wording. But anyways, so yeah, I don't want to have all this super repetitive code for all 10 numbers, you know, that's pretty silly. So what I want to do is create I started creating a function that will do all this work and then just return the VAO, VBO, and EBO probably through function parameters. I think going a step further than that would be to make a class that represents a number kind of model, which each object then would have a VAO, VBO, and EBO, and maybe attached vertices and indices as well. But that's a second step. So let's just continue with where I was, which is this function create number. So we just copied that logic for creating all those things. And then we also took in what vertices we have, what indices we have. The problem right now is it doesn't know, yeah, if you can see this here, let me just clear it, make it simpler. It's complaining about, you know, you're doing size of vertices, because right here you're doing size of vertices, but vertices is essentially a pointer. It doesn't know what the actual size is. So what we need to do is pass in the size. And then, does that work? Actually, we need to change that to be, so instead of size of vertices size, and same down here, indices size. Let's see if that works. Okay, so now we actually want to replace all this setup here with that function call. I think this also, we don't need to do every, or is this attached to the VAO, so we would need to do this every time? That's a good question. I'm assuming yes. Let's just experiment with it. So I'm going to v-split this so I can see what the function looks like again. Set wrap. I want to see the whole thing. Okay. So instead of doing all of this, so we'll need to create our VAO and VBO and everything out here. So we actually would need this line. And then we just say create number. We pass in 0 vertices, size of 0 vertices, and the indices as well. And then VAO, or 0 VAO, VBO and EBO. Okay, now I think I would need these as well. Let me do without and just see what happens. Does that work? Okay, 0 is not being displayed at all, which means something's not working. Oh, well, duh, because I deliberately didn't do these. Now it should work, I would think. Nice, okay. So it's working the way it was before. Obviously the 0 is still an issue. So let's do that and replace the other things in a similar way. Why am I, no, let's not do that. So let's just do this. Let's replace all zeros with 1. Okay, it's model stuff, so let's copy this again. Let's see if that works. 0, 1, 2, 7. Cool. So that works. Again, the next step, I mean, there's multiple next steps. There's a few things we can do. One, create a class to represent number models, I guess you would call it. And that's useful because instead of passing in, for this create number function, instead of passing the vertex data and the vertex size, the indices data, the indices size, the VAO, the VBO, the EBO, we would just pass in, it'd be like void create number. We just pass in, like this could even be, all of this logic could even be done in like the init. We wouldn't need an extra function necessarily. This could just be the init function for the number model class, right? This could be just done and that would do all this setup for you. So that when you create a number model, it creates these things and has that all done and going, right? Yeah, so that's something to think about. But either way, it just makes it a lot less of a pain to have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 args. You just have one that's all encapsulated. Another thing is to create vector or array or vector. See, I always feel like vector gets a little confusing, especially in graphics code, because you have vector meaning like essentially an array list in C++, but then you also have vector in the sense of like a vec3 or vec4. Anyways, an array or vector of numbers, number model stuff, which without a class means all this stuff. So you'd have like an array, maybe an array of all the VAOs, an array of all the VBOs, an array of all the EBOs, where you would say like EBOs 0 would be the 0 EBO, that sort of thing. So it's more organized. You don't have to, again, you would be able to get rid of some of this repetitive code and just access an array. Another thing is to obviously still add rest of the number models. I think that's cool. Let's look into fix 0 model. I'm not sure what the issue is with this one. We pull up the 0 model file. I don't know which file this was. Yeah, here we go. Obviously something wrong with this. I'm not sure what the issue is. Like, did I map this out wrong? I mean, if we go let's just go through all the vertices again. -3, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3. Oh wait. Oh wait. Index. No, yeah. 2 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 is 3, 5. Yeah, that's fine. -1, 1, 2. -1, 1, 2. +1, -2. +1. The vertices seem fine. So there's a few points where there have been issues. We could have issues in writing down the vertices, writing down the indices, and then translating from this image to the actual code. Huh. Wait, that's fine. Issue is in 0. Is there an issue here? -3, 5. -3, -5. +3, -5. -3, 5. Oh, maybe that's the issue. Okay, this is supposed to be positive. Okay, that was it. Cool. That was kind of a weird model. I might be worth it to make, like, I don't know. Should the circle for the, I mean, you can tell what it is. I guess let's not overthink it. Cool. So the next steps, the idea is, I think doing the class would be cool. That's just kind of a cleaning up thing though. So we don't necessarily need to do that. But get rest of the numbers in, I'd say, is the first step. And then write some logic to draw double-digit numbers or something to do. So that way we can actually hook it up. Well, no, we need okay, we need rest of the number models, obviously, to start. Write the logic for double digits, write the logic for placing an overall number, like being able to say like write FPS number 42 and then tell it where on the screen to place that. That'd be cool, because then we can just have it place up in the upper left corner, and then we can just call that function write, FPS number in this loop based on the FPS, and that would update that. So that seems like a few things to do next.